Sir, good morning to our chief mentor, sir. Good morning, Sudhir, sir, and good morning, Sharma, sir. Sir, I'm Karunya, pulmonology PG, presenting a case today. A 69-year-old male resident of Sigidam, he's a shepherd by occupation, came to the ROPD with the complaints of cough from 2 years and shortness of breath from 2 years, fever from 10 days. Cough is gradual in onset from 2 years and it is episodic, is productive in nature, it aggravates on exertion and it is increased in supine position and at nights, and he has no seasonal variation. The sputum is mucoid in nature, moderate in quantity, white in color, non-foul smelling, not blood stained. Next slide, sir.
Yeah.
Shortness of breath is gradual in onset from 2 years. It is episodic and progressive. Initially, it was grade 1 MMRC. Now it progressed to grade 3 MMRC within a gap of 3 months. It aggravates with exertion on climbing stairs. It relieves on taking rest and medication. Breathlessness associated with wheeze during exertion, and it is not associated with palpitations, orthopnea, PND, and pedal edema. Fever is high grade, continuous with chills for 10 days. Release on medication, no complaint of chest pain, pedal edema, and hemoptysis. Coming to past history, he has a history of pulmonary TB 20 years back, for which he got treated. He completed his anti-tubercular therapy for 6 months, and he also has a history of hemoptysis. It was before diagnosing of pulmonary TB. So the hemoptysis was 1 to 2 episodes per day. It is spoonful, associated with fresh blood with clots. It is not associated with sputum. No history suggestive of allergy, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, coronary artery disease, or epilepsy. Coming to drug history, a patient is on dry powder inhalers for 2 years. He was treated as bronchial asthma. He was given dry powder inhalers. He was using it continuously for 2 months and he then stopped it. Then from then onwards, he was using whenever the patient is presenting with shortness of breath and with wheeze. And he has no history of using any anticoagulants in the past. Coming to family history, there's no history suggestive of allergy, bronchial asthma, pulmonary TB, diabetes, hypertension in the family. Then personal history, he's a smoker for 15 years. He smokes 3 cigarettes per day, started at the age of 15 years, stopped at age of 50 years. The reason why he stopped is after diagnosing of pulmonary TB, and doctor suggested him to stop, him to quit the smoking, and he is a non-alcoholic. The habits are he takes mixed diet, bowel and bladder habits are regular, sleep is disturbed, and appetite is normal.
So Karanya, till now,
So,
I will point out few points. You said drugs on ATT and fever is subsided on medication. You need to mention what is the medication that he has taken and subsided, and what will be the dose for how long he has continued. Similarly, ATT doesn't mean anything, and you have to go in detail. Neither in the past history you didn't mention, or nor in the drug history, the ATT or the variety of drugs, and whether he has taken usually intermittently or continuously, and is there any change of ATT over a period of time when he was going to the doctor and all. And you say smoker is 15 years and he started with 15 years of age and stopped at 50 years. So that means he smoked for 35 years.
Sorry, sir, that was a typing mistake. I think that is 35 years. He was a smoker for 35 years, sir.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. I think these are the few points. Maybe Sharma and Sudhir will let you know later on.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
We will moderate, sir. Let her complete the history part.
Okay, sir. Coming to the summary, so a 69-year male came with the complaints of cough with a productive sputum with a nocturnal variation and with a shortness of breath associated with a wheezing and with a fever. My differential diagnosis would be the patient may be having chronic bronchitis or bronchial asthma, COPD, postnasal drip. It can be tropical eosinophilia, lung abscess, and pneumonia. So these were my differential diagnosis. To narrow my diagnosis, will further proceed to the general examination.
Okay.
Coming to general examination, he was moderately built and ill-nourished. There's no pallor, no icterus, no cyanosis. Clubbing was there. It was grade 3, no pedal edema, and no cervical lymphadenopathy. His vitals were pulse rate is 68 beats per minute, regular in rhythm, normal in volume. No radial and radiofemoral delay. Blood pressure was 110 by 80 millimeters of mercury in right arm supine position. Temperature is 97 degrees Fahrenheit. Respiratory rate is 16 per minute. Abdominothoracic type of breathing. Coming to systemic examination, upper respiratory tract, nasal septum was deviated to right side with left inferior turbinate hypertrophy. Paranasal sinuses appears to be normal and there is no tenderness. Nicotine staining of buccal mucosa and teeth were present, and there is poor oral hygiene. Coming to lower respiratory tract, on inspection, the position of the trachea appears to be central, chest is elliptical, asymmetrical, medial border of the scapula is prominent on the right side. Then supraclavicular hollowing on the right side is seen with infraclavicular flattening. Wasting of pectoral muscles on the right side is seen. No localized bulging, no spine deformities, no use of any accessory muscles, no apical impulse, and no visible pulsations or dilated veins over the chest. Coming to palpation, trachea is central in position. Movements of chest wall is equal on both sides. Apical impulse felt on left fifth intercostal space, 1 centimeter medial to the mid-clavicular line, and no narrowing of intercostal spaces, no intercostal tenderness, and no intercostal widening. Vocal fremitus is increased on right supraclavicular and infraclavicular areas. Coming to the anthropotic measurements, chest circumference is 72 centimeters. On inspiration, it is 75 centimeters. Right hemithorax is 37 centimeters. On inspiration, it is 38 centimeters. Left hemithorax is 38 centimeters. On inspiration, it is 39 centimeters. AP diameter is 15 centimeter. And transverse diameter is 24 centimeter. Coming to percussion, direct percussion over the clavicle gave a resonant note both on right side and the left side. Direct percussion over the sternum and manubrium gave a dull note, and percussion over the supraclavicular area in the right side gave an impaired note. Rest of the areas resonant note was there in supraclavicular left side, infraclavicular, mammary, axillary, infraaxillary, suprascapular, interscapular, and intrascapular areas. Tidal percussion, liver dullness noted from the right side fifth intercostal space in the mid-clavicular line. On deep inspiration, previous dull note has become resonant and drop space gave a tympanic note. On auscultation, there was a expiratory bronchi heard in all the areas in both the right and left, whereas in supraclavicular and infraclavicular areas, there were mid to late coarse inspiratory crackles were there. And right side suprascapular and right interscapular areas, there were coarse crackles present. And in the rest of the areas, expiratory wheeze was noted. Vocal resonance, it is increased in right suprascapular, interscapular, right supraclavicular and infraclavicular regions. Other system examinations were cardiovascular system, S1 and S2 is heard, no murmurs. Per abdomen is soft, non-tender organomegaly. Central nervous system, no focal neurological deficits. And patient is conscious, coherent, and oriented. Next. Coming to this, my provisional diagnosis was right upper lobe bronchiectasis as a sequel of pulmonary TB with underlying COPD.
Yeah, we will stop here. And because you are now going to go into the investigations to find out the cause, probably, and we need to clinically first identify what are the things we got right and what are the things we would have liked to have in the history as well as in the examination, right?
Okay.
Okay,
So,
I'll go back to your slide number 1. As
okay, sir.
usual, we will discuss each of your slides
Okay, sir.
and then we will get back to some important information from
Okay,
the
sir.
slide. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So what is striking on this slide? You tell me. What is striking information on this screen?
Sir, actually, with his occupation, because of he's a shepherd, so we thought he was any allergic to the wool which is present over the sheep. So we thought of or
Yeah, you are considering some pneumoconiosis in view of the occupation.
yes,
This
sir.
is what sort of pneumoconiosis is possible in shepherds?
Vicinosis can be
Stenosis?
uh, interstitial lung diseases can happen.
I
Sir.
just asked artificial, pneumoconiosis. Just name all the pneumoconiosis you know.
Okay, sir. Silicosis, asbestosis,
Mhm.
coal workers pneumoconiosis.
Mm. Anything like bagasosis?
It's a bicinosis and diabesosis.
Anything like Wool-Sorter's disease?
Yes, sir. Wool sorters disease. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So keep them in mind, the occupation. What are the 1, 2, 3 points mean?
So, he's presenting with a cough, productive cough from 2 years, sir.
Mhm.
So, and the shortness of breath from 2 years.
Okay.
And fever, which is exaggerating, means some active infection made him to present us to hospital, sir. That
These
is,
two, 1 and 2, can point out to 2 systems. What are
okay,
they?
cardiovascular system and respiratory system.
Correct. How can you narrow down to respiratory system with that?
So he has no orthopnea in his
Correct.
complaint.
We will go there. And there is fever. What does this mean?
So some active infection which is exacerbating the underlying disease.
Possibility of an acute on chronic.
Yes.
Possibility of an acute on chronic is suggested here. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, we are going to describe the cough further. And from this slide, what is our conclusion?
Okay. So
What is the conclusion from this? What type of cough is this?
It's a productive cough.
Is it an infective cough, or is it a sort of a cough related to cardiovascular disease, or is it something related to a mass lesion? How can you find out from the cough itself? You can say that, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Because it is a mucoid nature, it suggestive of an infectious sputum, and the moderate in quantity, it suggests some chronic diseases like bronchiectasis or chronic bronchitis or bronchial asthma, which on supine position, supine position, that means the patient will be lie down at nights more in the supine position. That may suggest a chronic bronchitis and bronchial asthma too, sir. White in color, which rules out as suppurative lung diseases like lung abscess and empyema, sir.
Very
and
correct.
non-foul smelling, it rules out bronchiectasis, sir. And not blood, actually it was a not blood stain, sir, that gave some clean.
Okay. Now it is very nice of you. Mucoid, moderate quantity, white color, non-spelling, excludes chronic suppurative lung disease as what we are dealing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a very important point in the history, that it is a mucoid sputum, moderate quantity, white in color, non-foul smelling, is CSLD, not blood stained. Suppose it is blood stained, what are the lung conditions and other conditions which can cause a blood stained sputum?
Yes, sir. Tuberculosis, sir.
Yes, very good.
Malignancy, bronchiectasis, lung abscess, some gram-negative infections, sir, like Klebsiella, E. coli, Pseudomonas, Serratia, sir. So these all are the organisms.
Tropical eosinophilia?
Yes, sir. Tropical eosinophilia.
Acute pneumonia?
Sir, acute pneumonia.
That doesn't fit in here because the patient's history is chronic. So it
Okay,
is
sir.
acute pneumonia we are not considering. Is
Okay.
it possible to have a chronic lung disease without bloodstained sputum?
Um,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
suppose there is pulmonary fibrosis. What
Yes,
reason
sir.
is there for him to have blood-stained sputum? Is it
Yes, sir. But
interstitial lung disease? Also, he
yes,
will not have blood-stained sputum. So,
yes, sir.
we will go further as far
Mhm.
as the blood staining is concerned, we will observe. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now,
Okay, sir.
what does this slide tell you?
Yes, sir. This is shortness. He is telling the shortness of breath from 2 years, which suggests it is chronic and episodic. Initially, it was progressive with only with minimal exertion and on climbing stairs. Now it is progressed to grade 3 within 10 days of span. That is, some active infection is exacerbating his shortness of breath.
Okay. So, this slide tells us that it is a chronic illness that is going on. And
Yes,
to
sir.
some extent, it was paroxysmal. Now there is an acute and chronic. That is why it is becoming a little more persistent, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have also already mentioned these things to rule out what
Cardiovascular system.
disease. And this cough and sputum breathlessness could be a feature of basically CVS or respiratory. So these are the ones which distinguish orthopnea, PND, pedal edema. Supposing I want you to pick up one quick test to rule out cardiovascular disease, what you do? A very quick bedside test or even lab test, which just rules out the dyspnea is not cardiac. What do you do that? I'm not asking CT or any big things. Suppose a patient lands in my OPD or in the emergency with breathlessness, and I have a doubt, is it cardiac asthma or is it bronchial asthma? Or in other words, is it respiratory or is it cardiovascular? How do I quickly differentiate?
Okay, sir. Patient can present with pedal edema, sir.
All that you
Uh,
have said. I am
yes, sir.
asking a test now.
We can go for a short-acting beta-2 agonist, sir.
No. Test I am asking. Did you hear of BNP?
Okay, sir.
B-natriuretic peptide.
Yes, sir.
B-natriuretic peptide, will it be elevated in respiratory disease?
No, sir. In
No,
cardiac disease.
unless there is carpulmonale, unless there is right atrial involvement and hypertrophy and increased pressure, BNP is normal in respiratory breathlessness. BNP or pro-BNP are very much raised in cardiovascular disease. This is what
Okay.
we do normally. In this hospital where I am working, the patient comes with severe breathlessness, a spot bedside BNP is done. If the BNP is elevated, cardiologist is called. If the BNP is normal, pulmonologist is called. You understand that that's such a good distinguishing test on the bedside to know whether it is cardiological or respiratory before you go in for echo, ECG or CT scan, whatever it is, to confirm cardiac or respiratory. Okay. Now, what does this tell?
So fever is high grade, which is continuous and chills, and no rigors was there. So it can suggest you of some acute exacerbation. I thought initially of pneumonia also to.
Yeah, continuous fever with chills for 10 days, high grade fever. You should think of acute pneumonia on a bronchial asthma or any other chronic lung disease. It is fair enough to think like that. But let us go further. Okay. So what was very striking in this past history? Very striking.
Yes, sir. Pulmonary TB, history of pulmonary TB and history of hemoptysis, sir.
Yeah. Just as our chairman sir was telling, an information about ATT has to be more complete. You said completed ATT, but you did not give us a complete picture of the ATT. Okay, like what drugs he took and what is the regimen he had and whether he was taking regularly, how was the compliance, whether he was tested again at the end of the therapy and confirmed that he was negative, and all that information will be useful. He may not be able to give you in the history, but if he has got some old records, I guess he might have, because TB records are usually in the form of a book given by the government, and you should be able to retrieve some information about that. Okay. Why is that important?
Okay, sir. To know the compliance, whether he is adherent to the treatment or not, or whether he has quit the treatment,
okay.
To rule out MDR TB, sir. Patient
that is one thing. Whether actually the TB has been totally eradicated and cured in him. I would like to know whether he has come to the state within quotes cure, whether he was cured at that time. If he isn't cured, this could be a relapse of the pulmonary tuberculosis itself, isn't it? You may
Yes,
not
sir.
require very big reason to have cough and breathlessness other than resurfacing pulmonary tuberculosis. What are the two types of pulmonary tuberculosis you get after somebody gets pulmonary tuberculosis and is treated? Then again, after a few years, 5 years, 10 years, he again got develops tuberculosis. What are the two possibilities?
Reinfection again, sir.
Very good.
And then any immunocompromised.
Reactivation. Did you hear
Yeah.
anything like reactivation?
Yes, sir. Reactivation.
Yeah, reinfection and reactivation.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so these
Okay.
you have to keep in mind. It could be a reinfection or it could be a reactivation of pulmonary tuberculosis itself. And provided I know the treatment history, I can throw some light on whether he is a reactivated pulmonary tuberculosis. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. So this is a, what is this history suggestive of DM, hypertension, CAD and all?
Yes, sir. Actually, allergy to rule out any tropical eosinophilias, sir, or any sort of eosinophilias.
Okay.
And diabetes mellitus.
Now
to
these
rule
I
out-
understand. These are routine mentions to look at the prognosis of the patient and this one. That allergy part I wanted you to dilate a bit on that.
And also to narrow down our diagnosis whether he has any history of bronchial asthma, sir, because
Correct.
the patient
Allergic
was
lung
not-
disease. An episodic cough, breathlessness could very well be a bronchial asthma. Isn't it? So I
Yes.
would like to know whether it is an allergic lung disease like an extrinsic allergic lung disease like bronchial asthma or, okay, now drug history. DPIs he is using and discount. What does this mean? He's using DPIs and then he is off that now. That
Yes,
means
sir,
what?
he was not adherent to the treatment. As patient was saying, he was comfortable, and when then he gets the shortness of breath or wheezing episodes, he was using only at that time. sir.
Again, DPI is a very broad term, isn't it? What exactly he was using, you would like to know, isn't it? Is it
Yes,
a
sir.
bronchodilator? Is it an ipratropium, tiotropium, or is it a combination? Is it a steroid inhaler he is using? You require to know, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. For example,
Yes.
what will be the treatment if he is having bronchial asthma versus, COPD? What DPI you will use in bronchial asthma and compare it to COPD?
Okay, sir. In bronchial asthma, I would like to give a long-acting beta-2 agonist with the inhaled corticosteroid, sir.
Yeah, ICS plus IBD. The first treatment is ICS, add-on treatment is IBD. In COPD, what do you do?
In COPD also,
COPD also you want to give ICS?
long-acting
No way.
ipratropium
You have
might,
to
sir.
start with IBD and then the, ipratropium, tiotropium like that, right?
Ipratropium, yes, sir.
Yeah, ipratropium group of drugs and later on only inhaled corticosteroids. Inhaled
Okay.
corticosteroids are not the first line treatment in COPD, where they are the first line treatment in bronchial asthma. For that
Okay.
reason, I would like to know what DPI he is using. He was using at least. Okay.
He was
Why
using
this line came? He did not take any anticoagulants in the past.
because he had a history of hemoptysis, sir. So I wanted to just rule out whether he was using any sort of anticoagulants in the past or not.
No, that hemoptysis was associated with tuberculosis, and he
Yes.
had a tubercular disease. And after that, when before the diagnosis and treatment only he had. After that, he never had hemoptysis.
Yes, sir. No.
Anticoagulants as a cause of hemoptysis in this individual is unlikely, isn't it?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So next, let us get into a personal history.
So that was a typing error, sir. He was smoker for 35 years, sir.
Okay. Where is that? Okay. 35 years. Okay. Okay. What bearing it has got in the diagnosis that you are going to make?
Okay, sir. He was a chronic smoker, so it can be a COPD also, sir.
Yes, this is a patient who is a candidate for COPD. We know the fundamental cause of COPD is rather an insult by smoke or any other air pollutant, isn't it? So it could be a COPD that this patient may be having COPD itself. Why big diagnosis may not require? He is having shortness of breath, he is a smoker, he is having cough with sputum, maybe acute exacerbation on chronic COPD. Is that possible?
Acute exacerbation can be possible.
Possible and a COPD. So you could have put that in one of your differential diagnosis. Cough, breathlessness, smoker, had pulmonary tuberculosis, all the more reason for having COPD, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you have to keep the differential diagnosis.
Yeah.
Always
Yes, sir.
until you confirm it is not COPD, you have to entertain the diagnosis as COPD. Pneumonia I can understand because it's an acute presentation, and acute pneumonia and chronic can be there. Second one is the allergic pulmonary disease like bronchial asthma. The third one, of course, most important one, being a smoker, I would put this as first differential diagnosis because COPD, breathlessness, cough, sputum, exacerbation, 35 years of smoking puts me first diagnosis. Probably from the history, it is COPD. Okay. Now, what does this slide tell me?
His nourishment says as
No, all that you summarize it. I'm already seeing what you have written. You summarize
Sharma garu.
what did you get out of this?
Sharma garu. Sharma garu.
చెప్పండి సార్
ఒక 1 minute.
చెప్పండి సార్.
Karunya,
sir.
Two things I want to ask. Now he has been elaborated so much.
Sir.
You need to question yourself in future or any case you are taking, or at the end of the case, or next day, or after 1 week.
Okay, sir.
What did you learn till this history portion? When you want to become a practitioner tomorrow, what did you learn?
Okay.
Do you understand my question?
Yes.
With all these things, the discussion that is last 15 minutes,
Okay, sir.
if you can able to grasp what did I learn, if
Okay,
you able to put a question for everything, what did I learn for each end of everything, then you will become the number one practitioner in life.
Okay.
See, I will tell you, what did I learn in the sense, first, as long as I want to finish the ATT, for every patient you need to counsel. After 6 months, you have to come back and see the disease has been eradicated, the treatment what we have
Okay, sir.
has been there. Otherwise, so that you need to counsel every patient.
Okay,
Second thing is, when he comes in a smoker of 20 years, 15 years, what is the consequence of the smoking is going to happen? If you say stop smoking, you will never listen. But you need to explain. By
Okay.
explaining, you also reiterating your knowledge again and again for every patient. So you will be mastered in it. Okay?
Okay,
The
sir.
same, that's what has been done. So
Okay.
like that, from each point should be correlated. What did I learn and how I need to be implemented in my practice lifelong.
Okay.
Then you will become a good. Now, he said to relieve a cardiac and non-cardiac breathlessness, one test is enough, so that you can also explain why I'm doing this, and so that at least, that's how the learning, that is what I mean to say, educate yourself. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. One more point. Why did you get a chills? What is the mechanism of chills for this patient? You mentioned it this way.
Yes, sir. Because
Chills
patient,
and rigors you mentioned.
as no rigor, sir, he was having chills, for which he was taking 2 to 3 blankets.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So why the chills has come for this patient?
Because it is a high grade fever that thermoregulatory center, it sends the.
So for each point, if you're able to, so that the knowledge will keep on improving with you.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, everybody, we are talking about chills and rigors, that mechanism, how it comes, then you can able to say which conditions it will come. You need to be able to work it out.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Sharma
Okay.
garu, go ahead, sir.
Okay, sir. What this Karunya, as the chairman sir is telling, every
Sir.
bit of information, I would like to know how it is contributing to my furthering of the diagnosis and treatment of the patient. That's why I'm
Sir.
questioning on each side, what are we learning? What are the possibilities that could have run in my mind before I conclude that ultimately this could be this disease? Okay, so that you
Okay.
keep on every information you gather, not just like that, there is no diabetes, no this and none. Okay, that routine statements are okay. When you are
Okay.
specifically saying something, you have to have in mind something. Here you have got one important finding. What is that?
Clubbing, sir.
What are the lung diseases which are associated with clubbing?
Congestive heart failure, sir.
Okay,
Lung
congestive heart
abscess.
failure, clubbing a very late stages, not the first diagnosis, isn't it?
Okay, sir. Lung
Clubbing
abscess.
and lung disease, I asked. What
Okay,
are
sir.
the clinical conditions, I mean lung conditions, which can produce clubbing of grade 3, which is a very severe clubbing, isn't it? Chronic
Yes,
clubbing.
yes,
Okay,
sir. Bronchiectasis, sir.
okay,
Lung abscess.
okay,
Malignancy, sir.
okay.
Then bronchogenic carcinoma or
You said
malignancy.
malignancy, you said, what is
Yes,
bronchogenic carcinoma, what is malignancy?
yes, sir.
Okay, what else? What are the lung diseases which are associated with clubbing? Suppose somebody has got empyema, can you have clubbing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so any suppurative lung disease,
Lung disease.
malignancy can have clubbing. In addition, chronic fungal diseases of the lung can have clubbing.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know whether you are going to diagnose a fungal disease here, but clubbing is a feature of bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. All pulmonary aspergillosis of the lung, pulmonary aspergillosis can cause clubbing of, higher degree like this. Okay,
Okay.
now we have excluded suppurative lung diseases because mucoid sputum, and then very non-purulent and very mild in nature, and then
Yes.
non-foul smelling, you excluded them. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now from the clubbing, we have got two things only remaining. Is it, malignancy, or is it any fungal disease of the lung? A pointer is already there, not diagnosis. A pointer is there. Pointer is a signal towards something. Diagnosis is when you keep all the points in one place. That will be the final provisional diagnosis. Okay.
Okay.
What did you
Okay.
get from this slide?
He has a poor oral hygiene, sir.
Okay.
So it may also can cause a pneumonia because of any aspirations of
Infection possibility. Okay. Anything else?
then nicotine staining that suggests he
Yeah,
may be a
smoking, confirms the
smoker
smoking.
as
Yeah.
can be a
Other than that,
COPD.
we did not get any important information on that. Supraclavicular hollowing on right side seen with infraclavicular flattening. What does that mean?
So there is a wasting of muscles was seen on the right side supraclavicular region that
Okay.
can suggest to a fibrosis, sir.
Okay. Fine. Fine. Fine.
Which
Pa-
he also has a history of
palpation.
pulmonary TB also.
Correct.
And
He has history
palpation,
of pulmonary TB. There were some fibrosis signs on the right side. Agreed. Now, what is palpation? What did you get?
positive findings was vocal phlegmatis was increased on the right supraclavicular or infraclavicular area, sir. So this shows there may be an underlying cavity.
Cavity or anything else? What are the conditions, clinical conditions, which increase VFVR? That puts the question. In
Okay,
which
sir.
clinical conditions I get increased VFVR?
Okay, sir.
One is cavity, you said.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, cavity.
Anything else?
Pneumothorax.
Pneumothorax, increased VFVR. Okay. Anything else?
Pneumonia, sir.
Consolidation. I don't say pneumonia. I say in terms of pathology, consolidation, cavitation are two things which will be associated with increased VFVR. Then immediately you should know what are the conditions which are there when there is decreased VFVR. What are they?
Decreased in pneumothorax, sir. In pleural effusion, sir.
Very much.
Can be impaired or decreased in fibrosis, sir.
Fibrosis, correct. Okay. Now, let us go these measurements. You brought a 3 centimeter difference here. You are bringing 1 and 1. Where from the other one is coming?
Okay.
Very simple thing, When you say make a 3 centimeter difference there, it happens. When you test each hemithorax, you may not appreciate all the 3 centimeters there. When you take them together, you may appreciate all the 3 centimeters. Possible like that. I'm not questioning that. It is possible. Okay. Now, what does this tell me as a summary?
There was a supraclavicular impaired node, sir.
Okay.
So that suggestive of fibrosis.
All fibrosis is possible. Other than that, normal. Okay. Now, tidal percussion. Okay, that says the which lung disease is very clearly demonstrated by tidal percussion.
Pleural effusion, sir.
Pleural effusion. Okay, pleural effusion. Okay.
Effusion and any underlying diaphragm pathologies, sir.
See, for example, patient is emphysematous.
Emphysematous.
What will happen to the tidal percussion?
It will be more resonant, sir.
Resonant, and it will not be in the fifth space,
Yes,
sixth,
sir.
seventh space, isn't
Okay.
it? So
Yes,
by
sir.
tidal percussion, if the liver dullness is in the seventh space, I am in for a diagnosis of chronic emphysema, right?
Okay, sir.
If I am getting on the right side, the tidal percussion, the liver dullness is now, I mean, very high above, say third or fourth space, I am thinking of pleural effusion, right?
Okay.
Pleural
Yes.
effusion and emphysema. In this case, it goes down, and this case it goes up, right?
Okay. Yes.
Now, what did we learn from this slide?
Actually, there was course crepitations was had in the supraclavicular, infraclavicular, and right suprascapular and interscapular areas, sir. This suggests some right upper lobe involvement
Okay.
with fibrosis might be there.
Okay.
And this crackle suggests of any collections of fluid in the alveoli, sir.
That is there could be some acute infection in the right supraclavicular and then the right infrascapular and suprascapular areas. That's okay.
Yes.
Expiratory wheeze in all the areas. What
Yes,
does
sir.
this tell me?
Okay, sir. It can be COPD or bronchial asthma also.
An obstructive,
Lung
particularly expiratory wheeze means it is an obstructive airway disease, because
Yes.
obstructive airway disease is an air out problem. The
Yes,
patient
sir.
will have problem in exhaling the breath.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have missed in your presentation very important thing. Can you tell me that?
Sir,
Very
actually,
important thing you did not do in the systemic examination, which will be probably a very hazardous thing for you in the examination. Can you tell me that? Where is the description about breath sounds? You are talking about adventitious sounds, you are talking about vocal resonance, you are talking about dullness, all that. But the most important thing is the type of breath sound is important, isn't it?
Okay, sir.
You have omitted. I don't know how. As a postgraduate, I did not expect you to do this. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So what sort of breath sounds are there? What are the three different types of breath sounds?
Vesicular breath sounds, sir. Bronchial breath sounds. Then pleural rub.
Pleural rub is not a breath sound.
Additional adventitious sounds. Sir.
That's what I already mentioned. Breath sounds are bronchial, bronchovesicular, and vesicular. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What sort of what sort of breath sound you expect in this particular case in the right suprascapular, interscapular areas?
So, actually, cavernous breath sound, sir.
Why? They said fibrosis earlier. And if there is, can fibrosis be associated with cavity?
Yes, sir. Actually, we were suspecting of because of the history of tuberculosis, we were suspecting of in cavity also.
Okay. In cavity, what sort of breathing will be there?
Cavernous breath sounds, sir.
How does it differ from other breath sounds, bronchial breath sounds? Classify the bronchial breath sounds.
Tubular breath sounds, sir. Cavernous. Amphoric, sir.
And there is what is called VP, whispering pectoralacqui. Okay. Does this patient have a whispering pectoralacqui?
No, sir.
If he has got, what does it tell you? Suppose the patient has got VP, that is whispering pectoralacqui, with a sort of cavernous breath sound. What does it tell you? What is whispering pectoralacqui?
cavity communicating to bronchus.
Correct. Excellent. Cavity communicating with the bronchus will have a whispering pectoral. Here you have omitted presenting about breath sounds. And you please remember, it's a very crucial thing. And a grave mistake on the part of the presenter. If in a respiratory case, a pulmonology PG or a general medicine PG, not presenting about breath sounds. Okay. Maybe by mistake you have omitted it. Okay, you have come to the diagnosis. What is the
So,
diagnosis here?
so can you enlighten us like because the patient initially presented with expiratory wheeze in all the areas,
Mhm.
so we couldn't differentiate initially, sir. After the patient got treatment for with the treatment, after the few days only we got to know about the cavernous breath sounds in there. So, what are the breath sounds can we add up here, sir? Like
Now
apart
here,
from the
see, as you said, when there is a severe wheeze, it is difficult to differentiate different types of breath sounds. So what you, as you have rightly put it, give me a good nebulizer of a sort of bronchodilator. The wheeze will come down, then observe the breath sounds. Okay. So that is
okay,
the way, and there are three types of breath sounds. See how to differentiate bronchial breath sound. The inspiration is longer than the expiration, and there is no gap. This is called the vesicular.
vesicular breaths.
The other one is inspiration and expiration are equally long, and still there is no gap, or it may be long.
Long.
It's called bronchovesicular. Bronchial breathing is inspiration is shorter, expiratory is very, very long, and there is a gap between the inspiration and expiration. This one. Okay. Now, what you came to some diagnosis. What is the diagnosis you made?
Actually, right upper lobe bronchiectasis and as a sequel of a pulmonary TB. Like
Now
it can
again
be
a problem now when you put like this bronchiectasis you have ruled out already by the not mucoid sputum, non-purulent, non-foul smelling. You have removed already bronchiectasis from your mind. Why you suddenly bring in bronchiectasis here?
And there was a coarse crackles also with the wheeze.
Coarse crepitations can be a feature of any chronic lung disease, particularly when there is allergic lung disease. It is possible in the absence of a mucopurulent sputum, foul smelling sputum. And I don't think you should be thinking of bronchiectasis.
Okay.
Okay. So bronchiectasis is a sequel of pulmonary tuberculosis. That is agreed. But whether we are getting that here in this patient, we have to think. Okay. It is not tenable because bronchiectasis is ruled out by the history. And bronchiectasis is a thing which is a chronic disease from the time of his tuberculosis. It will not wait for 20-25 years, and in between is almost normal with the DPIs. And now only the shortness of breath has come. So unlikely, isn't it? Okay. One thing that could be pointed to bronchiectasis is the clubbing part. But clubbing without the other features can be other diagnosis also. Okay. Now let me see your other part of the presentation. So you require some investigations. What did you do?
Chest X-ray, sir. And CBC to rule out active infection, like because he presented with a fever, and sputum to rule out bacterial diseases and fungal diseases, sir.
Okay.
And pulmonary to rule out reactivation or reinfection, we have done CBNAT also, sir.
Okay.
But ECG and 2D echo as a part of routine investigations we have did, but not related to this disease.
This is to exclude your cardiac disease. Okay, yes, agreed. And this you remember, I'm going to have a question for you on that particular thing. Keep in mind. So CBC alone, I'm going to ask you something about that a little later. This is the X-ray of the patient, right?
Yes, sir.
So read the X-ray as a pulmonology PG. You read the X-ray. You should learn to read the X-ray properly. Don't say it is one diagnosis. I don't want the diagnosis. I want you to read the X-ray.
Okay, sir. This is a 16-year male patient of a PA film, sir, with an adequate exposure, with a slight rotation towards the right side, sir. And there is a fibrosis and the cavity.
No, directly you are going into diagnosis, fibrosis and all that. Then before that, you how do you go? Will you go from within out or from without in? There are two methods of doing. You start from the center of the chest X-ray and go out, or you start from the periphery and go in. Both ways you can do. All of you PGs, you must learn how to read a chest X-ray and not just put one diagnosis on the chest X-ray. Okay.
sir.
Now you
Okay,
tell
sir.
me.
Okay, sir.
Read from the
From
outside to inside.
outside to inside, sir. With the subcutaneous tissue is normal, sir.
Good.
There is no evidence of any past rib fractures, sir, or any malunions. Then
Rib cage looks normal, no fractures. Subcutaneous tissue, suppose there is a air shadow here. What
yes,
does
sir.
that mean?
Subcutaneous emphysema or
Possible in
surgical
what condition?
pneumothorax, sir.
Correct. Sort of a leaking pneumothorax into the subcutaneous tissue. Okay. After the rib cage, then you go to the next part of the chest. What is there next to the ribs?
Just
What is
for
there immediately to the ribs?
pleura and
Pleura. So can you identify anything related to pleura here?
no, sir, no thickening of pleura, sir.
How do you know? What are these?
Tented diaphragm is tented, sir, and it is irregular diaphragmatic body, sir.
Pulled up. Diaphragm is
Pulled
pulled up on the right side. With as if
Yes,
somebody is pulling it up. And if we
yes,
look at the cardiophrenic angles and the costophrenic angles. For what?
yes, sir.
For what?
To rule out the
For evidence
pleural.
of fluid. Right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Then go in.
Okay, sir.
About the
Then
trachea.
trachea.
Along with the diaphragm, we also look at the trachea, though it is internal. Is there,
Yes, sir.
is there tracheal deviation in the X-ray?
No, sir, there is no trachea. Trachea is fixed and central, sir.
Yeah. And before that, did you observe the spine?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's because of the right-sided fibrosis. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So little bit of scoliosis is there. Okay.
Mild.
This mild scoliosis because of the fibrosis. Is it
Yes.
scoliosis to the right or scoliosis to the left?
Right, sir.
Okay. Now come next one.
Okay. Then
Lung.
coming to
Now come to the lungs. Start from
lungs.
the upper zones, mid zones, lower zones, and then bronchohyla, like that you have to go. What do you see in the upper zones?
There is a homogeneous, no, sir. There is a homogeneous opacification lying inside a cavity, sir, in the right
Where is
upper
the
zone.
cavity? First describe the cavity, where it is, location. Supposing the X-ray is not before me, you have to tell me where is the cavity. How do you describe it?
This is a thin-walled cavity located in the right upper zone. Moreover, below the clavicle, sir.
Okay.
And
Now I understand. Right clavicle, you have got a cavitator lesion.
yes.
Sorry. A cavitator lesion here in the right. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Then?
With the central mass-like lesion, which is noted within the cavity, sir.
Something like that.
The
Inside
homogeneous
sitting.
opacification is
Sitting there. Okay. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
There are
What are these
fibrotic
things? What are these things?
There are fibrotic strands located both in the right, mid, and lower zones, both right side and the left side, sir. With the calcification, few calcifications noted in the left mid zone area, sir.
Correct. Correct. What is this?
Is a aorta, sir.
Aortic arch.
As
Okay.
aortic.
Okay. And what is the nature of the lung cardiac shadow still out here?
It is looking like a tubular heart, sir.
Means what?
Can be COPD.
Emphysema. Looking that and over expanded lungs. Now, can you count the ribs and tell me where is the diaphragm? This is the first rib. This is the second rib. This is third rib. Fourth rib. Fifth rib. Sixth rib.
Yes, sir.
So it is down, isn't it? A tubular heart with the lungs drawn in and diaphragm drawn down. Is the diagnosis of emphysema is there already in this X-ray? Apart from the cavity with that, this one, you have got an emphysematous lung with fibrotic changes. So what is the conclusion of the X-ray reading? There is evidence of fibrosis on the right side, as evidenced by this one and all this one and this scoliosis. And there is evidence of cavity with a mass in the cavity. And there is evidence of emphysema. And there is calcification. Okay. Now the findings are clear. So if you go like that, you have a habit of doing it systematically, no, there is a cavity, sir, there is a mass. Already you have a diagnosis in mind and you are trying to focus on that. Don't do that. Because in naive patient with an X-ray chest in your hand, you don't know the diagnosis. You are using the X-ray to make a diagnosis and not to go back and read the X-ray after the diagnosis. There are two different things are there. Once the diagnosis is not fitting, then you can always come back to the X-ray and look at that. There's nothing wrong in reviewing the diagnosis. Now, what is your differential diagnosis?
So this differential diagnosis based only on the chest X-ray, sir. So the
Okay.
first thing can be to rule out is in India it is tuberculosis, sir.
Correct, excellent.
Then it can be a lung abscess, sir, because
Okay.
there is an air crescent sign noted, but not the air fluid level, sir. It
Okay.
can be a blood in the pulmonary cavity, sir. It can be any aspergilloma or sarcoidosis, which can cause any cyst or cavity like
Okay.
lesion, and hydatid cyst, sir. Apart from aspergillosis, we can aspergilloma or ABPA, like or aspergillosis, sir.
Okay.
Langerhans cell histiocytosis.
Okay. Rarer conditions. The common thing is it is a suppurative lung disease like a lung abscess or a TB cavity or a cavity with some fluid or blood there, or it could be a fungus there. Supposing I am considering, let us say I'm not completely saying that it is the diagnosis. I'm considering that how can I use a chest X-ray to confirm my diagnosis?
Okay, sir. We have to take a decubitus film, sir, because aspergilloma, it's not like an invasive fungal diseases. This there will be a fungal ball or mycetoma sitting inside the cavity, which will be mobile with our position change in the position, sir.
Yeah, shifting shadow of the fungal ball. Take an X-ray in the laying down position as well as in the standing position and in the flat position, 3 positions, you will be able to say. That is one area where it will be useful. And when it will not shift, suppose there is a mass, it is not shifting, then what does it mean?
Okay, so that can be a fixed, this can be a mass, or in few cases of aspergilloma also, the fungal wall will be fixed to the cavities.
Suppose the mass is very big and almost occupying the cavity, then where is the question of shifting? It does not shift, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what does this tell me?
Okay, sir. There's a increased WBC count with the neutrophilic predominant, sir.
Here I ask you one question, straight question, as all general medicine PGs also. Now, you, Karuna, you stop for a while. One of our senior general medicine PG will answer, what are the types of pulmonary aspergillosis? What are the types of pulmonary aspergillosis?
Sir, allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis.
Okay.
Invasive aspergillosis.
Okay.
Aspergilloma.
Anything else? Okay, fine. At least you mentioned 3. Karunya, you mentioned the 4th one.
Sir, invasive aspergillosis.
Yeah, you said chronic invasive aspergillosis. Okay. Invasive aspergillosis. Okay. CNS. And then he said aspergilloma, he said bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, you said ABPV, he said. And there is one more condition is there, which people probably do not know, that I will tell you. Don't worry, I will show you that presentation. Now, there is a way of differentiating these things using the DC. Supposing it is aspergillosis, it is compared to invasive aspergillosis, compared to bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, the cell type will be different. The cell type in allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis will be eosinophils. And in the cell type in aspergilloma and this one acute infection on that, neutrophils will be there. Invasive aspergillosis, lymphocytosis will be there. Lymphocytosis will be predominant. Here, there 80 and 90 will not go together. Total, it should make 100. That means there is some mistake there. Neutrophils cannot be 80 and lymphocytes cannot be, 90 plus 80 is 170. Differential count is for 170. How did you bring 172 there total? Isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, what will be the value of lymphocytes if I take polymorphs as the correct one? it will be 18. Isn't it? So such basic mistakes you should not do while typing. Okay. Okay. What does this tell? Nothing much. Okay. So yeah, this is okay. Okay. Why did you do this?
Sir, because to roll out a HIV, which can also cause a cavitating lesion, lung lesion, sir.
There is what is called ICH. What is ICH? ICH and lung disease. Volumes are written on ICH and lung disease. Immunocompromised host. ICH is immunocompromised host. Who is that host? What is immunocompromised host? Who is immunocompromised host? You already said HIV-1.
Yes, sir.
People on chronic steroid therapy.
Chronic steroids, diabetes people.
People on transplant.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Organ.
People who have chronic lung disease, liver disease, and chronic kidney disease.
Yes.
Okay. People on anti-malignancy drugs. Okay. People who are totally malnourished due to any reason. This is a host of first HIV, other chronic viral diseases like HCV and HBS. And of course, you have got the chronic steroid therapy for any reason. And then people who are on post-transplant patients, people who have chronic CKD and CLD, and people who are on totally parenteral nutrition and malnourished. These are all the immunocompromised host. So you have to always go into the history of being a immunocompromised host. Okay. Malignancy of any reason is an immunocompromised state. Okay. What did you demonstrate in this X-ray?
Sir, the first one was in the PA film, sir, posterior anterior view film. And the
You
second
can see
was
a beautiful, nice
right
mass sitting there.
I said the mass is mobile with the decubitus film, sir, towards the to gravity, sir.
It has moved. That is very nice. Very nice to demonstrate that there is a mass, and these are beautiful calcifications which are brought out in this position compared to in the other view. Here you see a series of beads-like thing are appearing. A lot of calcification was there. Okay. How do you account for their calcification? Can aspergillosis produce calcification?
No, sir.
It is due to the old pulmonary
TB calcification.
Okay. So you fungal culture, you isolated. What aspergillus species? Aspergillus is a genus. What species? What is aspergillus species? Any organism has got two names. One surname, one personal name. For example, you must be having a surname. What is the surname? What is your surname?
Sarangam S.
Yes is your surname, and Karunya is your specific name. This is generic name. This is specific name. What are the species of aspergillosis? This comes to, at least you should be able to name 3 species of aspergillosis. What are they?
Aspergillus niger.
Niger.
Aspergillus fumigatus.
Okay. Okay. That's all. 9 different species are there. Read. I don't want to feed all the answers. Okay. Chest X-ray, involved cavitary lesion, pulmonary thickening, fibrotic stent. Good. Will pulmonary function be helpful in such a patient?
Sir, to rule out, because he was having an underlying COPD, to rule out whether he was having, whether it was in a bronchial asthma or a COPD, to suggest a DPI, sir.
Okay. Yeah, it is
so
okay to do the pulmonary function test is important to rule out obstructive airway disease, particularly has got expiratory wheeze all over his left lung. So I would definitely we would like to do that. Okay. Fine. Final diagnosis aspergillum of the right lung. Okay, fine. Now this brings to the question. I will stop your presentation and I'll start discussing the topic of aspergilloma. Okay, let us hope that we have diagnosed aspergillosis, and there is one presentation by me. Certain slides may be useful to all of you. Okay, so look at that, and so is it visible, my presentation? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So, as you know, Aspergillus are ubiquitous everywhere. And then Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus fumigatus, Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus clavatus. This is what I am asking. At least 4 you name. These are the common things. Out of the 4, which is the commonest one?
Fumigatus.
Yeah. Okay. And then let's go to the next slide. These are the, my dear PGs, all of you, including pulmonary and general medicine. If the Aspergillus spores are inhaled by you and me, normal host, nothing happens. Nothing happens because we have the ability to withstand the spores. The Aspergillus spores are there. Mucormycosis is also there, but we don't get it into our lungs because we are normal host. Cavitatory lung disease is there, just as in this present case, it can lead to an aspergilloma. Okay. Chronic lung disease or mild immunocompromised host. This is called the CNA, chronic necrotizing aspergillosis. Okay. If you have severe immunocompromised host, you will have IPA, invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. And if you have the allergic tendency in the patient, it develops ABPA. You have to have a very clear picture. Which patient develops which type of aspergillosis. A normal host, nothing will happen. Cavitatory lung disease, old tuberculosis, aspergilloma. A patient with chronic lung disease, COPD, he will have, or a smoker, he will have necrotizing, chronic necrotizing aspergillosis or CNA. A patient with severe immunocompromise like a malignancy, HIV, or a transplant patient, a chemotherapy patient, malnourished patient, you are in for trouble. That is invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. And a fellow who is an asthmatic, he will develop ABPA, allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. Here, the predominant cell is polymorph, the predominant cell is lymphocyte, the predominant cell is eosinophil. By looking at the DC itself, I will be able to differentiate between these conditions. My history also tells post-pulmonary tuberculosis, most likely aspergilloma, asthmatic patient, ABPA, immunocompromised host, IPA, COPD, or mild ICH is chronic necrotizing aspergillosis. You understand? This is a very important slide for you, inhalation of aspergillus spores. What sort of spores these are? These are called the conidiospores. Okay, this is a Penicillium notatum, and this is the conidia. All that is like a flower, it will be there. This is a spores of the aspergillus compared to the penicillium spores. So this is a sort of rosette-like thing will be there. The conidia are formed and the spores are dispersed, and that you see. And they produce the nodule-like thing inside sometimes. And then some flakes-like things are also possible. This is on an agar plate. If you do a culture on the mold culture on a malt agar, the culture medium is a malt agar, then you see beautiful fungal growths on the malt agar. Okay, this is how it looks on the plate. Okay, I told you the one is most important, dangerous one is invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. So invasive pulmonary aspergillosis, what are the risk factors for invasive pulmonary aspergillosis? Neutropenia, neutrophil dysfunction, transplant, high dose steroids, advanced AIDS, cytotoxic therapy, hematological malignancy. This is what I am telling. These are the risk factors for invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. These are all possible in a severely immunocompromised host or a fellow who is an ICU patient, critically ill patient, dangerously ill patient. References every slide. I am giving you the reference here. This is from the American Journal of Critical Care. Those who are interested, they can go and read that. Remember, invasive pulmonary aspergillosis is common only in patients who have immunocompromised sort of pattern, like neutropenia, neutrophil dysfunction, transplant, post-transplant, high-dose corticosteroids for over 3 weeks or a month, hematological malignancies, other malignancies, chemotherapy, advanced AIDS, critically ill patients, and very malnourished patients. So these patients, they they may be patient leukemia, all that we know, and also people who have what that the HSCT. HSCT is, what is HSCT?
Hematopoietic stem cell transplantation.
That is homologous stem cell transplant. Okay, so these are all the various conditions. Clinical manifestations. These people come, the fever unresponsive to antibiotics, cough and sputum, dyspnea, pleuritic chest pain, hemoptysis. They present acutely. This is how it looks. 80% of the cases, involvement of the lung will be seen, and they may have cerebral involvement, seizures, ring lesions in the cerebral, and other cerebral infarctions also can come. Intracranial hemorrhage, other things can. Again, the reference is there on the slide. Okay, now remember why I brought this was invasive pulmonary aspergillosis is a critical dangerous condition. The patient will present with fever unresponsive to antibiotic. Cough and sputum will be severe, dyspnea is severe, hemoptysis may be there, non-pulmonary presentations like CNS presentations may be there. So other organs like kidney, pleura also may be affected. And diagnosis, of course, the looking at the sort of sputum examination and aspergillus will be grown there in that. So this is how the aspergillus will be seen under the stain. What sort of staining is used for aspergillosis?
Gomori methamine stains.
Grocard's methamine stain or Gromori methamine stain, GMS, is used. And then diagnosis, halo sign may be there, multiple nodules, air crescent sign, ground glass appearance and consolidation. They can present with any one of them. Maybe a nodule, maybe a halo sign, maybe a air crescent sign, maybe a GPO, ground glass appearance, and then the pulmonary consolidation. Diagnosis is by bronchial or lavage. You have to do a BAL. Bronchoscopy with BAL is generally helpful for the diagnosis. A specificity of 97%. That means if it is positive, we can swear it is. PCR can be done. And then there is, you have to remember this also. There is what is called the galactomannan. Galactomannan is a component secreted by the aspergillus during the growth. So this galactomannan can be detected in the blood. And this is a test, this is a marker for aspergillus in the blood, galactomannan. Galactomannan is sensitive to the tune of the positive predictive value is 98%, negative predictive value is 62%. How do I treat? The treatment differs for these 4 conditions. That is why I'm focusing on that. Use the IDSA guidelines, Infectious Disease Society of America guidelines. Voriconazole is the treatment of choice. Okay, invasive aspergillosis, treatment with pulmonary invasive aspergillosis, IV or oral voriconazole. Okay, how much you give? Karuna, voriconazole you choose?
Sir, we have given itraconazole of 200 milligrams, sir.
How long? How long?
For a duration of 6 months initially, sir. We have kept him for follow-up. So
Correct.
he is
So
to
the treatment is unlike bacterial infections. Antifungal treatment is very prolonged, maybe 3 months, 6 months, like that, and keep following. Don't stop the treatment abruptly. Because even if the clinical symptoms regress, the spores are still dormant and he may anytime come back with the disease. You have to give the antifungal drug for a long time. Voriconazole for invasive pulmonary tuberculosis, voriconazole is the drug of choice compared to amphotericin B. Okay. So what is the LAMB?
amphotericin B,
Levoamphotericin B, that is the liposomal amphotericin B. It can be used other salvage therapies. If it is not responsive to voriconazole, you can try LAMB or posaconazole, itraconazole, echinocandins can also be used. Echinocandins are later generation drugs. We don't use them straight away. Then that is all about the IP. That is the invasive pulmonary IPA, invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. Then you go for the chronic necrotizing aspergillosis, CNA, chronic necrotizing aspergillosis. The very name suggests it is the indolent cavitatory infection process of the lung parenchyma. And there is, in contrast to IPA, CNA is very slowly progressive and less dangerous condition. And vascular invasion and dissemination to other organs is unusual. It is more a pulmonary disease, unlike this one, which can spread to the other systems. So what are the underlying conditions? COPD, previous TB, thoracic surgery, radiation, and pneumoconiosis, lung infarction, cystic fibrosis. These are all the predisposing conditions. Sarcoidosis also can predispose to CNA, chronic necrotizing aspergillosis. And these are all the contributory conditions like diabetes, alcoholism, chronic liver disease, and all. Now, how do I treat and differentiate? Chronic necrotizing is restricted to the lung. Generally, whole lung is involved, and you get a positive test in the sputum, and also you'll get a lot of chronic lymphocyte, because chronic infection, lymphocytosis will be there. They can present with fever, weight loss, malaise, productive cough. Occasionally, they may be asymptomatic. Diagnosis more clinical and radiological. Pulmonary cavitation in paracavitatory infiltrates. That is very invasive. Whereas in aspergilloma, there is no invasion of the lung parenchyma. The fungal ball mycetoma is just sitting in the cavity. It's not invading the parenchyma. Here it is invasive. So how do I treat? This patient requires treatment with oral itraconazole. Treatment of choice is not voriconazole, but itraconazole. Voriconazole also can be used, but itraconazole is the first drug of choice. Posaconazole also can be used. What is the dose of posaconazole or voriconazole? No idea. You don't want to treat fungal infections as a pulmonologist. Luckily for you to remember, all are 300 milligrams BID. All are. Whether you use Itro or Vorico or Posaco, you use 200 milligrams BID and also use for a longer duration. You should also know what are the possible side effects of antifungal medication. Okay, do you know what are the side effects of itraconazole you used? But when you use a drug, don't you like to check the side effects? Will you just use it? Supposing I ask you to take itraconazole, just like that. Will you take it without asking what side effects it will produce? Then you have to know the side effects. Common side effects are GI side effects, headache, rash, no dangerous side effects in general. Rarely liver enzymes may be elevated. Okay, now treatment is, now comes the next condition, aspergilloma. Exactly what you are now dealing with. This is a fungal ball composed of fungal hyphae, inflammatory cells, fibrin, mucus. Most common species is fumigators. Other fungi may also be there. Okay, what are the underlying conditions? Tuberculosis, sarcoidosis, bronchiectasis, cysts and bullae, ankylosing spondylitis, neoplasm, pulmonary. Our patient is having tuberculosis, most commonly associated. 544 patients studied in India, pulmonary cavities, tuberculosis cavities. 11% of them, they had aspergilloma. Is it not a big number? 11% of pulmonary tuberculosis cavity patients are candidates for aspergilloma. Aspergilloma, there is no invasion of the fungus into the cavity, into the pulmonary. It just sits in the cavity. It is mobile, as you have demonstrated in that, and X-ray shows those things. Clinical features are patient may have mild hemoptysis, are usually asymptomatic. What is the use of this? The patient is asymptomatic, you don't have to treat. You don't have to do anything. The patient is having symptoms, and in this case, he has shortness of breath and difficulty, cough, and all that. That is why you are treating. If the patient is asymptomatic, leave alone, just follow it up. That is the teaching. Okay. Mortality. What is the mortality of these people? Mortality, if they have hemoptysis, 14%, up to 14% may be the mortality. Cough and dyspnea are the common features of this patient. Okay, diagnosis we have already covered, and you have to have the differential diagnosis: blood in the cavity, hematoma, a neoplasm, an abscess, a hydrated cyst, Vigeners, which you have already listed in your diagnosis. What is the treatment here? You have given itraconazole. Is there better treatment than that?
You can give a voriconazole
Yeah, surgical resection.
Okay, sir.
That is the treatment. Surgical resection, removal of the fungal cap ball, cures the patient. Okay. Particularly somebody is having recurrent hemoptysis. Suppose suddenly he presents with severe hemoptysis. What do I give? What do I do?
Endobronchial,
What do you do with endobronchial?
endobronchial
You did not know what to
coagulation. No, sir.
do. You want to coagulate the bronchi?
Bro-
Bronchial artery embolization. What do you do in bronchial artery embolization? You are all PGs, you must learn this thing. Not like a sort of a village doctor. Tomorrow you are going to put a board, a pulmonologist. Then I will come to you, madam, I have a shadow and I have hemoptysis. Then what do you want to do? Can you do me BAE? I will ask. Then you should not say what is BAE. Isn't it? Bronchial artery embolization. Now this brings me the question, just trace the systemic blood supply of lung. Tell me the systemic blood supply to the lung.
Bronchial artery, pulmonary artery, sir.
The pulmonary arteries are not systemic blood supply, my dear. There are two blood supplies are there for two organs. Lung and liver have got dual blood supply, right? Here the pulmonary blood supply I am not asking. It is I am asking systemic blood supply.
Bronchial arteries.
Where from they arise?
From the descending aorta branches.
Okay, which
Directly
side? How many are there? Bronchial arteries? Two on the left side from the aorta direct, one from the intercostal artery. And the two on the left side direct from the aorta, because it is descending onto the left side. To the right side, it has to feed not through the descending aorta, but through the intercostal artery, usually the third intercostal artery. Why do I know that information? What is the use of that? I want to embolize, I should know which artery I have to embolize. So what do I do in BAE? So what the intervention radiologist will identify the bronchial artery and then enter into that and through the catheter and deposit some material which will make the bronchial artery clot. Okay, so the hemoptysis is immediately arrested. So that's why I did not show this slide. Bronchial artery embolization should be considered life-threatening hemoptysis. Cardiovascular intervention radiology. There is a new discipline called the intervention radiology. And then those people will do it. Okay. Now, treatment is itraconazole you can give or voriconazole, but surgery remains the treatment. Massive hemoptysis, treatment by BAE. Now comes the last condition, ABPA. This is common in asthmatics, ABPA. And then pathogenesis of ABPA, it is a IgE mediated type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. That is why you have what is the treatment for ABPA? Itraconazole, voriconazole, surgery. Corticosteroids are the treatment for ABPA. Corticosteroids are the treatment for ABPA. It is not the fungus that is causing problem. The IgE-mediated allergy is the cause of the problem. So I use an anti-inflammatory. Corticosteroids are the treatment. You need to differentiate these four conditions all for all the PGs of pulmonology and general medicine. Otherwise, how do you treat the pulmonary aspergillosis? Okay, clinical features are ABPA, pleuritic chest pain, fever, wheezing, episodic wheezing, just like any asthmatic. He presents, and asthma is the most important thing. And then diagnosis is, of course, IgE levels are very high in this patient, more than 100 nanograms. And pulmonary infiltrations may not be very much there. Eosinophilia is the hallmark. Okay, and then diagnosis is made. And there will be several gloved finger appearance, and then around, and also say ring sign, tram line sign. All these signs are possible in the X-ray. There are 4 stages in that: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 exacerbation, and of course the stage 4 corticosteroid dependent stage. Okay. Stage 5 is the fibrotic stage where the lung becomes fibrotic. Treatment of ABPA is a combination of corticosteroid and itraconazole. Corticosteroid is the mainstay of treatment of ABP. Itraconazole is helpful in reducing the symptoms. Okay. So some X-rays I am showing. This is the bilateral involvement of the lungs with the florid picture, which is suggestive of an invasive type of aspergillosis. And this is something like your patient only, fibrosis and all that with a fungal ball. And then you see here, there is a cavity, and the mass sitting in the cavity is the aspergilloma. Then you see this is again another mass. This sign is called Moonard sign. Okay? This is called Moonard sign. Every little bit of it. And when you quote some pictures like this X-rays, you have to give the annotation and refer where from you got that. Every slide must contain, unless it is your own slide. Remember that when SPGs, you should not do that. Here also I have put courtesy so and so in the bottom. Here what did I get? I have the mass-like lesion. I don't see the air around that. Probably the entire mass is filling the cavity. Now you see again a mass-like lesion is attached to the cavity. In that case, it won't be mobile. In that case, it won't be mobile. Now here is a beautiful pulmonary cavity. Within that, the aspergilloma CT is very clear. Now this is here also. This is called the hollow sign. Okay, more mass and less crescent sign or hollow sign. Then this is again lot of space in the cavity, and then this one. And you see similar pictures of these two CTs of this patient. This is again another slide, similar picture. And these are the aspergillomas in the brain. This is possible only out of the three conditions. Only invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. Sorry, in CN, chronic invasive pulmonary aspergillosis, necrotizing aspergillosis, and IPA, invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. They can present with more so the invasive pulmonary aspergillosis. Chronic one is usually restricted to the lung. Aspergilloma and ABPVA, they will not go to the other organs. That is the big important slide. Thank you. Okay. So now, what did we learn? Anything you learned out of this presentation or not?
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay, now you review. This is I've recorded this and I'll send you back all of you. Go and record these things. I request Dr. Sudhir Garu to sum it up and moderate it further.
There is nothing to sum it up, sir. You have given a very informative and a very lucid lecture on this, and your discussion was very informative, sir. And if you send that PDF, yeah, I think
I'll do that. I'll send it to you. You please circulate
for the postgraduate to review it whenever it's possible.
Yeah. And the video also I will send it. Okay. We thank our chairman, sir, for being with us and helping us in the understanding of how to go about. And hopefully he is busy, I think, now, and maybe he is hearing and not visible to us. Namaskars to him.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Karanya, thank you.
Sir,
thank you coming in.
Sir, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, you did it. Yeah, Namaskaram, Bhaskara garu. Namaskaram.
Namaste. See, what I want from each presentation, lastly, you have been full job. Maybe I want to get it done for KIMS DNB students also.
Please, sir.
If you are free. What I want to make all the students to write, what did I learn from this patient? So in why most of the physicians, surgeons, they are failing in the practice, even though they get the degrees. One is they don't know how to counsel. They are not counseling because they don't have the subject. So that every subject means what a patient expects. See, getting bookish knowledge is different and treating the patient is different. how to convince the patient is different. So the learning, what I mean to say is, what did I learn to pass on to my patients? That is the thing which usually takes 20 to 25 minutes for each consultation. We are doing only 2-3 minutes. Where is the question of improving our practice? We don't. So in that each item, what we mentioned in the history, like how smoking, we need to explain them, how the ATT significance of continuously taking or intermittently, the significance, how we need, unless you start explaining all these things, counseling, you don't build your practice. That is the great thing that they should be able to do. At least a weekly one case from each department. If they do, in 3 years, there is 150 cases they will be able to discuss. Then they will become a perfect person. So what I am telling the students, at the end of the day, I need a slide. What did I learn from this patient? On that also we can comment. And Sharma garu, okay na?
Avanandi, they have to write a summary slide, take home. The take home slide they have to give. This is what I learned from this slide. These are this presentation or this teaching class session has given us these insights. They have to put them 1 or 2 slides, and all the PGs, I request them to do that and show it to the respective departmental heads or share it with me, and we will be able to help you if there is any difficulty or gaps in your understanding, right?
Okay.
I try to present an overview of the aspergillosis to the students with the hope that they are not very familiar with this condition. All the 4 should be differentiated on clinical grounds, on the type of cell involvement, on the type of treatment that you have to offer, and on the prognosis also. Different fronts are there. The modern knowledge also should be there. Basic thorough clinical knowledge also is essential for us to progress.
So in a day or two, Sharma garu, now what I am doing is to select a good, whoever passed the PG, either general medicine or pulmonology.
Okay.
I want to do 5 to 10 cases, case histories like this discussion.
Okay.
So one of these days, 2 pulmonologists has come forward.
Okay.
We will grill them like this, and then we'll see whether they are fit or not.
We'll do that, sir. You just tell me the time. I'm available anytime for teaching.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Kindly join on Tuesday whenever you are feasible. I am available with you on Tuesday and Fridays.
Sudhir, all clinical meetings, you please text me so that whenever I am free, I will join.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Already. Actually, in our WhatsApp group, we always keep this thing, sir. I will send it personally to your WhatsApp group number.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your
Sudhir Garu, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to look at a nice case and discuss with the pulmonology PGs. Particularly, the inputs by our chairman, sir, are really welcoming, and PGs have to follow the instructions.
Thank you, sir. We'll leave the meeting.
May we take leave of you, sir?
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Karunya.
Thank you, sir.
If you have any doubts, you tell me. I'm going to share the entire presentation as well as the video recording of this particular session.